The Department of the Interior and Local Government, Central Luzon, presents this series of instructional videos as part of the formulation and updating of LGU Comprehensive Development Plans.
Magandang araw mga kaplano! Para sa ating episode ngayon, atin namang tatalakayin ang Part 2 ng Local Development Investment Programming, ang pre-LDIP activities. Pag-uusapan natin ang 9 pre-LDIP activities at magkakaroon tayo ng 5-item quiz. Ating tatandaan na ang pre-LDIP activities ay Step 9 ng Enhanced CDP Cycle at may siyam na pre-LDIP activities. Madali itong tandaan. May 6 C's: Call, Compile, Consolidate, Classify, Curate, at CCC, at may 3 P's: Prim, Prioritize, Present. Ito ang 6 C's at ito ang 3 P's. Ang pang-anim na C at ang unang dalawang P ay ang mga tools sa screening and prioritization. Ang huling C at ang unang dalawang P ay mga activities na dapat gawin sa sectoral groups or teams. Ang unang C ay activity ng local chief executive. Ang second at third C's naman ay activities ng TWG Secretariat. At ang huling P ay presentation ng sectoral groups sa plenary. Makikita natin sa summary table na ito ang 9 activities, who is in charge or involved, at ang mga tools na ating gagamitin. Sa huling column naman ay makikita natin ang outputs. Sa compile activity, ang output ay random list of projects. Sa consolidate, random list of projects per sector. Sa classify, structured list of projects. Sa curate, initial list of projects. Sa CCC at prim, preliminary list of projects. Prioritize, preliminary list of prioritized projects. At sa present, preliminary list of urgent projects at project brief for each urgent project. Isa-isahin natin ang bawat activity. Una, call. Sa activity na ito, the local chief executive, ang city or municipal mayor, ay magko-call ng project ideas and proposals. Number 2, compile. Using the suggested form, i-compile naman ng TWG Secretariat ang project ideas or proposals taken from any or all of the following sources: CLUP or CDP, sectoral and functional committees, LGU departments and offices, national government agencies, at private sector and civil society organizations. Ito ang gagamitin na format para sa pagko-compile ng mga project ideas at proposals. Bukod sa description ng proposal, ilagay din ng proponent at estimated cost. Third activity is consolidate. Iko-consolidate naman ng TWG Secretariat ang mga na-compile na proposals by sector: social, environmental, infrastructure, economic, at institutional. Fourth is classify. At the sectoral committee level, conduct initial screening of proposals. Maaari po lamang na mag-refer tayo sa episode na Structuring Solutions and Policy Options Part 2, Programs, Projects, and Activities, kung saan ay pinag-aralan natin kung paanong mag-upgrade ng non-projects to projects, mag-convert ng programs and activities to projects, mag-breakdown ng large projects into sub-projects, at napag-aralan din natin na mag-classify ng projects into those owned by the national, provincial, city or municipal, barangay government, or those that can be taken up by the private sector. Ipinakita natin sa episode na yon ang dalawang recommended na format para sa structured list of projects, ang Form 2A na makikita natin dito at ang Form 2B. Regardless kung Form 2A or Form 2B, maaari po lamang na i-carry over or i-carry forward ang listahan ng projects sa huling column papunta sa format na ito para sa structured list of projects para sa pre-LDIP activities. Makikita natin dito ang mga checkmarks sa ilalim ng both random list at structured list. Kapag ang project ay nagmula sa random list of projects at nakaabot sa structured list of projects, may checkmark sa dalawang column. Kapag ang project ay na-identify lamang sa upgrading, conversion, at breaking down of projects, may kita lamang sa structured list column ang checkmarks. Kapag ang project naman ay nasa random list, ngunit hindi ito considered as a project by definition or hindi ito ma-upgrade sa pagiging non-project into a project, then sa random list column lamang ito may checkmark at walang checkmark sa structured list column. Maliwanag po ba? Activity number 5 is curate. Sa activity na ito, kinokonduct ng sectoral group ang initial screening of projects by consolidating repetitive or redundant proposals. Kinoconsolidate natin ang projects with identical or near identical descriptions, objectives, intended beneficiaries, location, etc. We also remove from the list project proposals that are obviously impractical or undesirable, for example, international airport in a remote and rural area. As a general rule, dapat ding alisin ang mga project idea na considered as obviously impractical or undesirable, lalo if there are reasonable doubts on whether it really is. Finally, we delete from the list of proposed projects which are identical to or are in fact projects to be funded by other sources, such as by those of the central or regional offices of government line agencies. Lahat ng matitira na projects ay mamarkahan natin ng checkmark sa ilalim ng initial list na column. Activity number 6 is CCC, or Conflict, Compatibility, Complementarity. Ang conflicting projects ay kapag ang expected benefits of two projects tend to nullify each other, nawawala ang benefits, or when the implementation of one project obstructs the implementation of another project. Ang compatible projects naman ay projects that do not obstruct the implementation of each other. At ang complementary projects ay kapag ang implementation of one project enhances the implementation of the other project, or if the combined benefits are larger than the benefits of each project taken alone, or yung tinatawag natin na synergistic effects. Sa activity na ito, gagamitin natin ng conflict, compatibility, complementarity matrix. Sa CCC matrix, nakalatag ang listahan ng projects vertically sa first column at horizontally sa first row. Ia-analyze natin ang bawat pares ng projects sa pamamagitan ng pagtingin sa intersection ng bawat column at ng bawat row. Sa bawat intersection, indicate the relationship between each project. Kapag conflicting, markahan ng X. Kapag compatible, iwang blanco. Kapag complementary, markahan ng O. At kapag repetitive or redundant, markahan ng Y. Halimbawa ang 5 projects na ito. Magsimula tayo sa row 2 ng column 1, Natural Slope Protection for River Segment A. Hindi na natin ito ikukumpara sa column 2 sapagkat same project sila. Let's analyze row 2 and column 3, yung header na Concreted Slope Protection for River Segment A. Tignan natin ang kanilang intersection. Kung mapapansin natin, both projects are for the same place. One is through natural slope protection while the other is through concreting. Sa makatwid ay conflicting sila. Kung gayon ay markahan natin ng X ang row 2, column 3, gayon din ang row 3, column 2. Tingnan naman natin ang intersection ng row 2, column 5. Ang header ng column 5 ay Development of Municipal Bamboo Setum. Mukhang malaki ang may tutulong ng bamboo setum sa natural slope protection. Dito pinapalaki ang mga bamboo na maaaring gamitin sa slope ng mga riverbanks. Sa makatwid, ang dalawang projects na ito ay complementary. Complementary din ang natural slope protection, row 2, sa construction of municipal plant nursery, column 6. Kaya markahan ang mga appropriate intersections with O. Finally, tingnan natin ang intersection ng row 6, construction of municipal plant nursery, at column 5, development of municipal bamboo setum. Mukhang maaari namang pagsamahin ang dalawa. Kung gayon ay markahan ng Y. Ang mga may marka na X ay maaaring i-remove o revise, samantalang ang mga may marka na Y ay maaaring i-consolidate o revise. Ang mga matitirang projects ay dapat markahan ng checkmark sa ilalim ng preliminary list. Kitang-kita natin sa matrix na ito kung paano nasasala ang mahabang list ng projects from random list to structured list to initial list and finally to preliminary list. Ngunit may isa pang tool para masala ang mga projects na nasa initial list papunta sa preliminary list. Ito ang activity number 7 o PRIM. PRIM stands for Project Resource Impact Matrix. This tool aims to determine the impact of each project on natural resources, human resources, infrastructure, and financial resources, both positive and negative impacts. Ating tignan ang matrix na ito. Sa Project Resource Impact Matrix, nakalatag sa first column lahat ng projects sa initial list. Column 2 naman ay impact on natural resources, column 3, impact on human resources, column 4, infrastructure, at column 5, impact on financial resources. So, puro impact itong second to fifth columns. Column 6 naman ay total ng positive impacts sa naunang 4 na columns at column 7 ay total ng negative impacts. Column 8 ay difference ng column 6 at column 7. Sa columns 2 to 5, if the project contributes to an increase in the quantity or an improvement in the quality of resources, markahan ng positive sign ang appropriate na cell. If the project is expected to lead to a decrease in the quantity or lowering of the quality of the resource, markahan ng negative sign ang appropriate na cell. If no effects are seen one way or the other, put a 0 in the appropriate matrix cell. Then, add all the positive impacts per row, add all the negative impacts per row, and finally subtract the total negative impacts from the total positive impacts to arrive at a net score. Then, remove projects with net negative scores and arrange the projects by net scores from highest to lowest. Halimbawa, ang project na concreting of existing macadam road ay walang impact sa natural resources dahil may existing road naman na ito at iko-konkreto lang. Kaya markahan ng 0 ang tamang cell. Wala rin itong impact sa human resources. May positive impact ito sa infrastructure dahil madadagdagan ng maayos na kalsada, ngunit may negative impact ito sa financial resources dahil makakabawas ito sa pera ng LGU. Kung susumahin ng positive impacts ay 1 lang at kung susumahin ng negative impacts ay 1 lang din. Kaya't ang net impact ay 0. Ngunit kung ang gagawing daan ay bagong-bago at makakabawas sa grasslands at partially sa wetlands, then may negative impact ito sa natural resources. Wala ring impact sa human resources. May positive impact sa infrastructure at negative impact sa financial resources. So 1 positive, 2 negatives, ang net impact ay negative 1. Narito ang ilan pang halimbawa. Ang mga projects na may negative score ay maaaring i-remove o revise. At ang matitira, markahan din ng checkmark sa ilalim ng preliminary list column. Ang pangwalong activity ay prioritize. We need to prioritize projects according to level of urgency based on the criteria set in the urgency test matrix. Sa matrix na ito, may 5 levels of urgency. In decreasing levels of urgency, ang pinakamataas ay essential, followed by necessary, desirable, acceptable, and deferrable. Ang mga criteria para masabing essential ang isang project ay first, it is required to complete or make usable a major public improvement. It is required to maintain minimum standards as part of ongoing programs. It is a desirable self-liquidating project. And it has external funding available. Ang criteria naman for projects that are necessary ay first, it should be carried out to meet clearly identified and anticipated needs. Second, it is needed to replace obsolete or unsatisfactory facilities. At third, repair or maintenance projects to prolong life of existing facilities. Ang criteria naman for desirable projects ay first, it is needed for expansion of existing projects. It is designed to initiate new programs considered appropriate for a progressive community. Ang criteria naman for acceptable projects, ay they can be postponed without detriment to present operations if budget cuts are necessary. Finally, ang criteria naman for deferrable projects ay they are recommended for postponement or elimination from immediate consideration in the current LDIP and questionable in terms of overall needs, adequate planning, or proper timing. Gamitin ang matrix na ito para malaman ang level urgency ng bawat project na pumasa hanggang sa preliminary list of projects. At i-arrange lamang in order of decreasing level of urgency from essential to deferrable. Ang output ng activity na ito ay ang preliminary list of priority projects. Ang panghuling activity ay present. Ang pagpe-present ng bawat sector ng kanilang preliminary list of urgent projects at project briefs ng urgent projects sa plenary. Note that not all projects identified by each sector may be submitted to the LDC in plenary. Because of the anticipated large number of sectoral projects, it may be necessary for the LDC to specify a maximum number that each sector may submit at any time. Hence, it is important for the sectors to select projects which they deem to be urgent. And, muli ang output for this activity, preliminary list of urgent projects at project briefs for each of the urgent projects. Ang laman ng project brief ay mga sumusunod: name and type of project, components, cost, justification, beneficiaries, outputs, risks and external factors, at expected private sector response. To summarize, napag-aralan natin ang siyam na pre-LDIP activities, ang 6 C's, call, compile, consolidate, classify, curate, and CCC, at ang 3 P's, prim, prioritize, and present. Napag-aralan din natin ang mga in charge o involved, ang paggamit ng 3 tools for screening and prioritization, at ang mga outputs ng bawat activity. Handa na ba kayo sa ating 5-item quiz? Question number 1. Pre-LDIP activities fall under which step in the enhanced CDP cycle? A. Structuring solutions. B. Approving and legitimizing the plan. C. Investment programming. Or D. None of the above. The correct answer is B. Next, the 9 pre-LDIP activities involves or includes A. 6 C's, B. 3 P's, C. 3 tools, D. 5 sectoral activities, or E. All of the above. The answer is E. Question number 3. The 3 tools used in the pre-LDIP activities are A. Conflict Compatibility Complementarity or CCC matrix, B. Project Resource Impact matrix, C. Urgency Test matrix, D. Classification by ownership, or E. Upgrading of non-projects to projects. And the answer is A, B, and C. Question number 4. Outputs during the pre-LDIP activities includes all of the following except A. Random list of projects, B. Initial list of projects, C. Final list of projects, or D. Preliminary list of urgent projects. And the answer is C. Finally, question number 5. The final output of pre-LDIP activities is A. Project briefs of urgent projects, B. Preliminary list of prioritized projects, C. Preliminary list of urgent projects, or D. Structured list of projects. And the answer is A and C. Maraming salamat mga kaplano sa inyong pakikinig at nawa ay marami tayong natutunan sa episode na ito. Sa next session, pag-uusapan natin ang Part 3 ng Local Development Investment Programming, ang LDIP proper.